Okay. So today's session is very important and it's a role in itself, the deployment part of Salesforce. A lot of openings are there in various companies. Some companies specifically have roles regarding deployments, deployment managers. Like I have seen companies like HCL, they are primarily focused on some of the deployment part. I've worked in various projects where the testers are from some companies, developers are from some other company, but the deployment managers are primarily from some specific companies like HCL. So if you're interested in that part, you can go for it. There are certain other features as well you need to know regarding deployment, like some other tools, free or paid tools, which you can focus on. But whatever is required for a deployment manager job, we'll cover it up. The best practices, process, and tools. So let's start with the tools first. So let's start with the deployment part. What is deployment basically? So deployment is all about moving your code from one environment to another environment. So deployment is about moving your code from one Salesforce environment to another Salesforce environment. So it includes both your data and your metadata, both. So you need to make sure that you have access to source environment and the target environment. Now it can be of two types. First is when you are moving your environment code from sandbox to another sandbox. Sandbox is nothing but a type of environment. Second is when you are moving your code from sandbox to production. What is the difference? Mostly your software development life cycle will be something like you develop your code in a developer sandbox, then you move your code to a testing sandbox, then to a UAT sandbox. All three are different environments, sandboxes, and finally from UAT you'll move to the production box. So here it is sandbox to sandbox, sandbox to sandbox, and finally sandbox to production. What is the difference? What is so special about here? Here it is important to have at least 75% of Apex code coverage. Code coverage. Here it is not required. So when indirectly you can say when you are moving your code from development to any other sandboxes, maybe you can move your Apex code directly without even worrying about the Apex code coverage test classes. But when you are moving to production, you need to make sure that you have properly written your test coverage, which we have learned in the last class. It's a tedious task, but without that you cannot move your code into production. It is only required for Apex code. It is not required for any configuration, neither Visual Force pages nor Lightning components. You need to stick to the Apex part. So that is one of the reasons it is said that write minimal number of lines of Apex code if possible so that you can avoid test coverage. Going further, what are the various tools which are used to move your code from one environment to another environment? So I'll start with the most common ones, which is called as Eclipse. Eclipse is also used by various other developers as well. If you are working in .NET or Java or PHP or any other technology, Eclipse is very, very popular among these development technologies. So I'll start with Eclipse. What you need to do is you can download Eclipse. It is freely available. Which version to download? I recommend any version which is Kepler or above. So Kepler is an older version, about 2.5 years back. It was launched. Sorry about my voice. So it was launched about 2.5 years back. Now they are, I think, it is Eclipse Oxygen or Neon or something. So we'll see that. Plus, you need to update it with the Force.com plugin. Right. So you need to do these two things to include the Force.com part into your Eclipse so that you can directly use it for coding or you can use it for deployment. Second tool which people use a lot if you are working in a product based company is called as packages. Third is you can use something called as change sets. Unfortunately, I cannot give you a demo because it is not available free of cost. It is available in the paid environments. But I'll tell you what exactly it is because it is very much similar to packages with some additional features. Then there is something called as workbench, which can also be used for deployment, and some other paid tools. If you have, if your client have money, you can ask them to buy these paid tools, which can make your life very easy. These are some of the very popular tools which companies use or developers use for deployment, that is moving your code from one environment to another. Let's see. Let's start with Eclipse. So let me open the Eclipse. Let me show you where you can download the Eclipse. I'll share all the links with you. So before that, let me show you where you can download. Just search for Eclipse download. I have already downloaded it, but so which one you need to use is, so right now I think it is Eclipse Photon or something, right? So you can download it. It will automatically pick up your operating system and give you suggestions. So you need to download the version which is about Java J2E, right? Like for example, if I'll go and click on download 64-bit, I think it will ask me for which particular version, 64-bit or something. So whatever you click, it will automatically pick up and you can download it. Once you have downloaded it, what you need to do is eclipseforce.com plugin. You need to follow this page which is in developer.salesforce.com. Very easy, step by step process is required. So first you need to go and click on help, then go over here, click on add, write these things, click on OK, so on and so forth. These 13 steps, and you are done with the force.com plugin installation. It is very easy. You don't have to try anything else. It will just pick up everything. Very useful. I'll share the link as well. Along with that, I'll in the email as well, I'll share everything. Then let me show you what happens when you use Eclipse. Let's try to move one of the objects from one environment to another environment. So let me open the Eclipse which I have. So some ground rules for using Eclipse. So like for example, when you are using Eclipse, write some pointers so that you can differentiate Eclipse from other tools. First is you need to know the credentials of both the source environment and the target environment. Both, right? Many of the times there can be an issue with that because the client will not be ready to share the target or the production environment credentials. So they might not prefer this particular tool, rather they'll go for other tools. But you'll require both the credentials if you want to use Eclipse. Second, it's a standalone tool. That means it is not on cloud. You need to download it and use it. That means your internal RAM space will be used for this deployment. So you should have at least 3 to 4 GB of RAM, otherwise your system will become slow. That is something which is a required thing for your deployment. Otherwise, you need to suffer regarding the productivity part. So you need to make sure that your system should have at least 3 to 4 GB of RAM, then only it will be smooth, because this tool is very heavy, it takes a lot of RAM space, right? So and it works on this API called as metadata API. Metadata API. So whenever you're using an API based system, you'll require an additional security. You'll always require an additional security. In this particular case, you'll require something called as security token. You require a security token. So we need to have a security token of both source as well as target along with the credentials. So let's